Luke Skywalker hangs unconscious and broken in a cave on Hoth, his face torn open by a wampa's claws, hypothermia setting in, his life hanging by a thread. Hours later, he emerges from a strange, warm tank filled with thick, gelatinous liquid, completely healed as if the savage attack never happened. That miraculous substance? Bacta. And today, we're diving deep into the story of the galaxy's most precious medicine. From ancient insectoid creators to cutting-edge synthetic variants, from healing clone troopers to keeping Darth Vader alive, Bacta has shaped the course of galactic history in ways most people never realize. This is the story of how a simple mixture of bacteria and barley became the difference between life and death for countless beings across the stars. But before we explore how Bacta changed the galaxy, we need to understand where it came from. And that story begins on a world most people have never heard of, Thyphera. Deep in the galaxy, on the agricultural world of Thyphera, an insectoid species called the Vratix made a discovery that would revolutionize medicine across countless star systems. These intelligent arthropods, working with the natural resources of their homeworld, developed what would become known as Bacta, a thick, gelatinous substance with near-miraculous healing properties. The Vratix didn't stumble upon this discovery by accident. They carefully cultivated a specific type of barley called Vertixia rhenanicus, originally grown only on Thyphera. This wasn't ordinary grain. It was a key component in what would become the galaxy's most sought-after medicine. They combined this specially cultivated barley with kavam and algae bacteria, along with ambery fluid, creating a mixture that could promote rapid regeneration of organic compounds. What made Bacta truly revolutionary was its simplicity and versatility. Unlike other medical treatments that were designed for specific injuries or conditions, Bacta was truly a one-size-fits-all solution. The microbiotics in the mixture started working immediately upon contact with a wound, beginning the healing process at the cellular level. The substance could heal concussions, repair internal organs, mend broken ribs, and even knit together fractured bones. Small dishes of Bacta could regrow fingernails, heal cuts and burns, and treat countless other injuries. It was warm to the touch, and its regenerative properties seemed almost magical to those who witnessed its effects. But perhaps most remarkably, Bacta didn't just heal surface wounds, it could regrow tissue, including nerves, skin, and muscles. This meant that injuries that would have been permanently disabling or fatal could be completely reversed, leaving patients as good as new. The Vratix established two major companies to manufacture and distribute their miracle medicine, Zoltan Corporation and Zuckfra Corporation. These companies would control Bacta production for centuries, making Thyphera one of the most economically important worlds in the galaxy. Control of Bacta meant control of life and death itself. As word of Bacta's healing properties spread, it quickly became one of the most prized substances in the galaxy. Medical facilities across countless star systems clamored for supplies, and the price reflected its incredible value. This wasn't just medicine, it was liquid hope, bottled healing, the difference between recovery and permanent disability. During the High Republic era, Bacta represented a major medical breakthrough. It came into widespread use as a replacement for an older healing substance called Juvan, offering superior healing properties and fewer side effects. The transition to Bacta marked a new era in galactic medicine, one where previously untreatable injuries could be completely healed. The agricultural world of Hetzel Prime attempted to break Thyphera's monopoly by growing their own Bacta during this period. However, their facilities could only produce the drug in limited quantities, highlighting just how specialized and difficult Bacta production really was. The Vratix had perfected a process that other worlds could barely replicate. During the Great Hyperspace Disaster, a catastrophic event that threatened multiple star systems, Jedi Knight Elzar Mann found himself near one of these limited Bacta facilities on Hetzel Prime. The disaster highlighted Bacta's strategic importance. When catastrophe struck, medical facilities producing Bacta became critical infrastructure that needed protection at all costs. The disaster also revealed the political implications of Bacta production. Senator Izzet Noor incorrectly speculated that the Selkath species had caused the disaster to protect their own medical business interests against Bacta competition. This shows how valuable and politically sensitive Bacta had become. so important that some believed other species would commit acts of terrorism to control its production. But the true test of Bacta's importance came during the Clone Wars, when the galaxy was torn apart by the largest conflict in its history. When the Clone Wars erupted across the galaxy, Bacta became more valuable than ever. Clone troopers of the Galactic Republic regularly used Bacta tanks to recover from battle injuries, making the difference between a soldier returning to fight or being permanently disabled. The Republic's war effort became increasingly dependent on steady Bacta supplies. Clone medics like Kix carried Bacta patches into battle, providing immediate treatment for wounded soldiers like Clone Captain Rex when he was injured on Salukami. These patches could stabilize injuries that would otherwise be fatal, buying time for more extensive treatment in proper medical facilities. The strategic importance of Bacta during the Clone Wars cannot be overstated. Armies that had access to Bacta could keep their soldiers fighting longer and recover their wounded faster. It became a force multiplier that could determine the outcome of entire campaigns. Control of Bacta shipments became a military objective in itself, with both sides of the conflict desperately trying to secure supplies for their forces. But perhaps no single individual illustrated Bacta's importance more dramatically than the man who would become the Empire's greatest enforcer, Darth Vader. After his catastrophic duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi on Mustafar, Anakin Skywalker was left burned and broken, more machine than man. Encased in his life-supporting armor, Vader lived in constant pain from his injuries. But in the safety of his fortress on Mustafar, he found temporary relief through regular Bacta treatments. Vader would have his suit removed and submerge himself in a Bacta tank, seeking to heal the pain caused by his devastating injuries. These sessions represented some of the only moments of peace in his tortured existence. The warm Bacta provided not just physical healing, but a brief respite from the constant agony that defined his life. More than just pain relief, Vader harbored hopes that continued Bacta use might eventually heal his damaged lungs, potentially freeing him from the breathing apparatus that had become his prison. While Bacta could heal many injuries completely, Vader's damage was so extensive that even this miracle medicine could only provide temporary relief rather than complete restoration. The image of Darth Vader, one of the galaxy's most feared figures, floating helplessly in a Bacta tank, reveals the substance's incredible importance. Even the Empire's ultimate enforcer was dependent on this medicine created by an insectoid species on a distant agricultural world. Years later, during the conflict between the Empire and the Rebellion, Obi-Wan Kenobi himself would require Bacta treatment after being burned by Vader during their confrontation on Mapuzo. The irony was profound. The same medicine that helped maintain Vader's broken body also healed the burns inflicted by his former apprentice. But Bacta's role in galactic history extends far beyond the Skywalker saga. In 9 Before the Battle of Yavin, Jedi Knight Cal Kestis made a discovery that revealed Bacta's most extraordinary capability, life extension far beyond natural limits. Kestis stumbled upon Dagan Gera, a fallen Jedi who had been kept in stasis in a Bacta tank since the time of the High Republic. For 224 years, the Bacta had kept him alive and young, far beyond his natural lifespan. It had healed the lightsaber wound inflicted by his former colleague Santari Kree, preserving him in perfect condition. However, this case also revealed Bacta's limitations. Despite being immersed for over 2 centuries, the substance could not regenerate Dagan's missing arm. This showed that while Bacta could heal wounds and extend life dramatically, it couldn't restore what was completely lost, only repair what remained. This discovery raised profound questions about Bacta's potential. If it could preserve someone for centuries while keeping them young and healthy, what were the ethical implications? Could Bacta be used to achieve a form of immortality? The case of Dagan Gera suggested incredible possibilities while also highlighting important limitations. Luke's treatment in the Bacta tank on Hoth became one of the most famous uses of the substance. The young Jedi emerged completely healed from injuries that could have been permanently disfiguring or even fatal. This scene demonstrated to audiences across the galaxy just how miraculous Bacta's healing properties truly were. During this same period, military innovation led to the development of Bacta bombs, grenade-like devices that could be used to heal soldiers on the front lines. These represented a crucial advancement in battlefield medicine, allowing medics to provide immediate Bacta treatment in combat situations where traditional medical facilities weren't available. The versatility of Bacta continued to evolve with new applications and delivery methods. Reprogrammed bounty hunter droid IG-11 used Bacta spray to heal Din Djarin's severe head injury after an explosion during the clash on Navarro. This spray application showed how Bacta could be adapted for field use by non-medical personnel, even droids programmed for combat rather than healing. But perhaps no post-Empire figure illustrated the ongoing importance of Bacta more than Boba Fett. After surviving his fall into the Sarlacc pit on Tatooine, Fett established himself in Jabba's former palace and acquired a Bacta pod for his personal use. The injuries he sustained in the Sarlacc required ongoing treatment, making Bacta essential for his survival and recovery. Fett's Bacta tank served multiple purposes beyond his personal healing. When one of his Gamorrean guards was injured in an assassination attempt, bitten by Black Krrsantan in the left shoulder, Fett used his tank to heal his loyal follower. Later, when Cobb Vanth was shot by Cad Bane, he too received treatment in the same Bacta tank. This sharing of Bacta resources illustrated how the substance had become a tool of leadership and loyalty. By providing access to Bacta healing, leaders like Fett could demonstrate their commitment to their followers' well-being, creating stronger bonds of loyalty and dependence. As the galaxy moved into the era of the New Republic and beyond, Bacta technology continued to advance. One of the most significant innovations was the development of flex-poly Bacta suits, specialized garments that could treat patients with artificial Bacta, representing a major advancement over traditional Bacta tanks. These suits offered several advantages. They were more portable than tanks, allowed patients greater mobility during treatment, and could be used in situations where full immersion wasn't practical or possible. The First Order defector Finn was equipped with one of these suits after being attacked with a lightsaber by Kylo Ren following his decision to join the Resistance. The Bacta used in these advanced suits was synthetic rather than natural, showing how the galaxy had begun to develop alternatives to the traditional Radix-produced substance. However, this synthetic Bacta was still extremely expensive, highlighting that even artificial versions remained precious resources. The development of synthetic Bacta represented a crucial shift in galactic medicine. No longer were healers entirely dependent on the Vratix of Thyfera for this life-saving substance. However, the high cost of synthetic alternatives meant that natural Bacta remained highly valued and sought after. This technological advancement also raised questions about the future of Thyfera's Bacta monopoly. If synthetic versions could be produced elsewhere, would the agricultural world lose its stranglehold on this crucial medicine? The answer would have profound implications for galactic politics and economics. But the story of Bacta isn't just about its remarkable healing properties. It's also about the human experience of using this strange substance. Most patients found the viscosity of Bacta somewhere between liquid and slime, creating an unsettling sensation that many found disturbing. The experience of being submerged in Bacta was often described as feeling like being swallowed alive. The thick, gelatinous substance enveloped patients completely, creating a sensation that could be deeply uncomfortable or even terrifying for those unprepared for it. To address this psychological challenge, most doctors would inject sedatives before Bacta treatment, helping patients relax and accept the strange sensation. As the treatment progressed, waves of relaxation would overcome patients, sending them into a meditative state that many compared to being in a mother's womb. Upon emerging from Bacta treatment, patients often described feeling worse for a few days due to the loss of serenity provided by the substance. The return to normal consciousness and sensation could be jarring after the peaceful womb-like environment of the Bacta tank. However, some patients experience the opposite effect, describing their bodies as feeling light and free from pain after treatment. These varying responses highlighted how deeply personal and individual the Bacta experience could be. The breathing apparatus provided during Bacta treatment became an essential piece of technology, allowing patients to maintain normal respiratory function while completely submerged. Specialized sensors monitored patients' vital signs, ensuring their safety throughout the healing process. These technological requirements meant that Bacta treatment required sophisticated medical facilities and trained personnel. It wasn't something that could be done anywhere or by anyone. Proper Bacta therapy required investment in equipment, training, and safety protocols. The economic implications of Bacta cannot be overstated. Control of Bacta production made Thyfera one of the galaxy's most economically powerful worlds. Despite being primarily agricultural, the Vratics had created more than just medicine. They had created a galactic commodity that could determine the fate of entire civilizations. Wars could be won or lost based on access to Bacta supplies. Planets with steady Bacta access could maintain larger, more effective military forces. Medical facilities with adequate Bacta could save lives that would otherwise be lost, affecting population growth and social stability. The monopolistic control of Bacta production by Zoltan and Zukfra corporations meant that these companies wielded enormous political power. They could influence galactic politics by controlling who received Bacta and at what price. This economic leverage often translated into political influence that extended far beyond Thyfera itself. The attempts by other worlds like Hetzel Prime to break this monopoly showed how valuable independence from Thyfera's Bacta production could be. However, the limited success of these efforts highlighted just how difficult it was to replicate the Vratics' specialized knowledge and techniques. The development of synthetic Bacta represented the first real challenge to Thyfera's dominance, but the high cost of artificial alternatives meant that natural Bacta remained economically competitive. The future of Bacta economics would depend on technological advances that could make synthetic production more cost-effective. But beyond economics and politics, Bacta represents something fundamental about the Star Wars galaxy. The idea that healing and hope can emerge from the most unexpected sources. The Vratics, a relatively unknown insectoid species, created something that would benefit countless beings across the galaxy. The story of Bacta is ultimately a story about the power of knowledge and innovation to transcend species boundaries and transform civilizations. What began as agricultural experimentation on one world became a force for healing throughout the galaxy. Every time we see a character emerge healed from a Bacta tank, we're witnessing the legacy of the Vratics and their gift to galactic civilization. From Luke Skywalker on Hoth to Finn in his Flex Poly suit, Bacta represents the possibility of recovery, renewal, and second chances. The substance that could heal everything from minor cuts to near-fatal injuries became a symbol of hope in a galaxy often torn apart by conflict. In a universe where war seemed constant and suffering inevitable, Bacta offered the promise that healing was always possible. The various forms Bacta took, tanks, patches, sprays, bombs, and suits, showed how adaptable and versatile true innovation could be. The same basic discovery could be applied in countless ways to meet different needs and circumstances. As we've seen throughout its history, Bacta saved heroes and villains alike. It healed Jedi and Sith, rebels and Imperials, making no distinction between the worthy and unworthy. In this way, Bacta embodied the highest ideals of medicine, the commitment to heal regardless of politics, species, or moral standing. The psychological effects of Bacta treatment, the meditative state, the sense of floating in another world, the feeling of being reborn, added a spiritual dimension to its physical healing properties. Patients didn't just emerge physically healed, they often described the experience as transformative on a deeper level. This combination of physical and psychological healing made Bacta more than just medicine. It was a form of renewal that could affect patients' entire outlook on life. The womb-like environment provided not just bodily restoration, but a kind of spiritual rebirth. The limitations of Bacta, its inability to regrow completely lost limbs, the temporary nature of its psychological effects, the disturbing sensation of submersion, reminded users that even miracle cures had boundaries. Perfect solutions remained elusive even in a galaxy with seemingly magical healing substances. Yet these limitations didn't diminish Bacta's importance. Even imperfect healing was infinitely better than no healing at all. The fact that Bacta couldn't solve every medical problem didn't make it less valuable for the countless problems it could solve. The evolution from natural to synthetic Bacta represented the galaxy's growing technological sophistication, but also raised questions about the relationship between natural and artificial solutions. Was synthetic Bacta truly equivalent to the original Vratix formula, or did something essential get lost in translation? As the galaxy continues to evolve, Bacta remains a constant, a reminder that some discoveries transcend the political and social upheavals that reshape civilizations. Wars begin and end, governments rise and fall, but the need for healing remains universal. The story of Bacta teaches us that the most profound changes often come from unexpected sources. The Vratics probably never imagined that their agricultural experiments would reshape galactic medicine and influence the course of galactic history. In a galaxy filled with incredible technology, hyperdrive engines that cross vast distances instantly, weapons that can destroy planets, droids with human-like intelligence, it's remarkable that one of the most important innovations was essentially an improved version of traditional herbal medicine. This speaks to something fundamental about healing and medicine. Sometimes the most sophisticated technology is less important than understanding natural processes and finding ways to enhance them. The Vratics succeeded not by creating something entirely artificial, but by perfecting what nature had already provided. The widespread adoption of Bacta across countless species and civilizations showed that good medicine transcends cultural and biological boundaries. What worked for humans also worked for Twi'leks, for Rhodians, for dozens of other species, testament to the underlying unity of organic life. As we look back on the history of Bacta, from its creation by the Vritics to its continued use in synthetic forms, we see a story of innovation, hope, and the endless quest to heal what has been broken. In a galaxy often defined by conflict and destruction, Bacta represents the opposite impulse, the drive to repair, restore, and renew. Whether floating in a tank on Hoth, carried in a patch by a clone medic, or administered through an advanced flex poly suit, Bacta embodies the promise that no injury is beyond healing, no wound beyond repair. In the vast, often harsh galaxy of Star Wars, that's a promise worth celebrating. The next time you see a character emerge from a Bacta tank, completely healed from what should have been permanent injuries, remember the Vratics of Thyfera and their incredible gift to the galaxy. Remember that behind every miracle is someone who refused to accept that things couldn't be better, someone who kept experimenting and innovating until they found a way to turn hope into reality. That's the true power of Bacta, not just its ability to heal bodies, but its demonstration that healing itself is always possible, that innovation can emerge from anywhere, and that sometimes the most important discoveries come from the most unexpected places. In a galaxy where anything seems possible, Bacta proved that the most important possibilities are often the ones that heal rather than harm, that restore rather than destroy, that offer hope instead of despair.